short story to share that reminded me of what you just said. I'm in an organization at the University of Michigan that does, we put on a prison creative arts project, like huge art show. And
can everyone hear okay? No.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
so I'm at an organization at the University of Michigan, and we have like the biggest prisoner art show in the world, actually, I think. But anyway, so I was on a selection trip, so we go into the prisons, get art from artists, and display it at the university. And one of the prisons, you can tell kind of when you walk into the prisons how much the guards like you or don't like you, and it really changes the way that you feel. And one of the last prisons we went in, the guard, we walked in and she was very rude to us, and we just had like a really bad vibe in the prison, and she really didn't want to, we just wanted to pick up the art, she really didn't want to take us to go get it. And then she finally had to, and she walked in with us. We're looking at the art that all these artists had done, and she just like her reaction to us completely changed and altered, and she started laughing and reminiscing about when she was working at this other prison and they'd been doing murals and how the prison had painted over all the murals, and just kind of we started to hear her story and how she had to move prisons because they'd been shutting down. And it was just like a really beautiful moment where I guess I just thought of that because she was kind of the enemy when we walked in. Like, she's working for the prison, and we're in there trying to do art and trying to validate these people as people and not as convicts. And then we realized she was also a victim of the entire system, and they shut down where she was working, which was the only place where, like, hurting the economy of her town, and she was driving an hour. So I think that she respected us, and we learned a lot from her.
Thank you. Okay.
I guess I'm looking for feedback and trying to really understand how. I guess I'm looking most for feedback in terms of the art that I'm trying to create. Right now I'm doing a lot of Palestine solidarity work, but I realize that I have a connection into the Zionist religious communities where I was raised. And what's blocking, and so I write sometimes about my story and what motivates me now to speak out and to fight against it. So I'm a writer, but I'm not really sure. The temperature around this issue is clearly so high. And because of my background, I have a lot of rage. And it becomes so difficult to articulate this new space that I'm in and really bring people in because I've almost lost faith in this whole community. So.
And just to mention, and I'll let people keep talking, but there we're speaking again, going back to Malcolm, we're talking about basically healing trauma. Changing the association so that people can hear what you're saying. And that resonates with me because I've done some writing around that was geared into, that was meant to be read by both Palestinians, Israelis, and Jews outside, which means putting in a lot of homeopathics. Because everybody reading something like that is looking for landmines, looking for a reason to dismiss it, and to say this guy doesn't get it. So yes, it's very delicate work doing that because you have to be able to essentially be recognized by the people you're writing for as a nutrient and not as a toxin. And that's very difficult because their immune systems under trauma are so ramped up that everything seems to be a toxin. And I'd love to talk to you later if you'd like to go into more depth, because this is definitely something that requires a lot of careful attention.
Thank you.
But there are ways to do that. And incidentally, I just met somebody who had read my piece, my booklet on that, on this weekend, who told me that not only was it formative in her politics around Zionism in Israel, but she actually got her Zionist mother to read it, and she read it all the way through, and while not changed, was still effective and didn't reject it. So that's what higher praise, So let's talk, okay? If you miss me here, I have a table upstairs because I'm going to be running off to another panel as soon as this is over. But you can find me in the main hall in Kobo. Other examples?
There was this international banking conference in Chicago that nobody was organizing about. So we have this puppet of a vampire banker. We were waiting. There was like a bunch of IMF officials and other like big banks officials participating. So we were waiting for their entrance, and we like followed them from the conference place to the place that they were staying, just asking them questions about bailouts. So that was one. Then a month after, there was the American Bankers Association conference in Chicago that CIO was organized a lot of people. So while the bankers were sitting there, you know, talking about money, there was went to a restaurant which the name of the restaurant was Chop Something, and we were learning how to prepare appetizers and stuff. So we took a group of people, we took the vampire puppet, and we got into the restaurant, went through all the security of the puppet. Nobody said anything. We went inside of the restaurant and started screaming "Chop" from the top. We were removed after like 5 minutes.
Power of a giant puppet.
It's pretty much like larger than a life size.
In San Francisco right now, there's been a bunch going on about labor and fair wages in the hotels, and so there's a bunch of hotels that are being boycotted, and we've been trying to draw a bunch of attention to it, but I don't think anything worked as well as, I don't know if anybody saw the YouTube video. But they organized the flash mob. They, like 2 people went in and they were pretending to look into the hotel, and they were like, wait a minute, we can't do this hotel's under boycott. And then all of these people came out, they had a whole like live marching band and everything, and they played a version of Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, and it was about bad hotels, and yeah, now it's on YouTube and getting a bunch of attention and everything, and nobody removed them or anything.
Beautiful action.
Yeah.
Well, my son was in Iraq, and the first Mother's Day, some of the soldiers got together and had this T-shirt made where it says, "Was soldier on top of a camel has shades, but he was doing this sucks face." And this is Happy Mother's Day, Operation Right and Freedom. But it also stated that they weren't happy to be there. You're sending your mom, which you miss, you know, your son, this T-shirt, and then it says underneath too, all I got for Mother's Day is this lousy T-shirt. So they did their own way of like sending their own saying, I don't really want to be here, I miss my mother, but all you got is this damn T-shirt.
Okay, just take a couple of more and then we'll move on to the next page. So you, I lied, there's 3 of you. Go ahead.
Just me and some friends over the last couple of years. Me and some friends over the last couple of years have created and mass-produced some fake newspapers. The fake New York Times, fake New York Post, and fake International Herald Tribune, showing either the world we want to see or at least the newspaper we'd like to see. So they've been around different issues, like the New York Post was about climate disaster. And we actually managed to give one to Rupert Murdoch, which was awesome. But every article, every headline was all sort of like, so we got away with it because I think they realized that they sued us. It was like what you said about the giant, right? They would just draw more attention to it, so we just did it.
So I work with an organization that does a lot of Appalachian transition sort of stuff, and we've been using this principle in 2 ways. We've been using the principle in 2 ways. One of which is to make sure that we're framing people like Massey. I'm sure you all remember the mine explosion that killed 29 miners earlier this year. Making sure that people, we're demonizing them basically because that's effective for us. Obviously Don Blankenship is not the actual, spawn of Satan, but it's useful to make him look like that. But the other thing that we're doing, and actually the more important one, is making sure that we're telling the right story, and that's become really apparent since the oil spill, because we can tell all these stories, but if we're telling them differently, if we're telling them separately, we're sort of kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because we're wasting our energy. So we're making sure that people know that our story is the same as the oil story, it's the same as the Colombian story, making sure that we're not all just kind of working individually at our little small tasks and not seeing the big picture. So that's the.
Thank you. One more?
Oh, yeah. I was working in California with a farm worker organizer named Al Rojas, and the farmers were going into Sacramento and going through Skid Row and picking up alcoholics and hiring them, offering them money, and then would would take them back out, and they would stay in a farm worker camp that was like a concentration camp. Big 15-foot fence and guard in the front, and locked all the time. And they would only, let them out when they were working in the fields. And so Al called a press conference in front of the farm workers camp, and went around the back and climbed over the fence, which luckily was only designed to keep people in, and was arrested and was brought out, in front of the press conference, in handcuffs with these, for trying to help these farm workers. And then, so they took him to jail, and he immediately went on a hunger strike. And this one guy, just got all of this press virtually single-handedly, just by being creative.